What is poppin', fight fans? And welcome to another episode of the Mystic Hour Live. And I am joined by somebody I've been such a fan of for such a long periods of time. From a long time ago to the Twitter days, I would always be commenting on this guy's posts and everything. And he is the original best dressed man in martial arts. Still to this day, former lightweight and featherweight contender Kenny Florian. Wait, former middleweight, former welterweight, lightweight and former featherweight, Kenny Florian. Kenny, how you doing today, boss?
Thank you, man. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Well, you outdressed me today, by the way. I got this schlubby sweatshirt on. I do love it. It's showy roll, but you outdid me today, my man.
You have enough days where you dress amazing, so I had to outdo you this time. I had to outdo you this time.
All right, you can take this round.
But Kenny, thank you so much for coming on. But I have to start off with the most important question.
Yeah.
What can I do to get you and Kurt Pellegrino a podcast? We got to bring that back. We got to bring that back. We got to bring that relationship back. That was one of my most favorite relationships ever. How are you guys doing in this time period?
That's hilarious, man. Thank you. Yeah, that shows how much of an OG you are
Yeah.
as far as the MMA game goes. Yeah, Kurt's doing good, man. You know, I don't get a chance to keep up with him as much as I used to, but last time I spoke with him, he's doing great. You know, I think between his kids and my kids, they keep us pretty busy, and I know he's teaching and working all the time. So, but I haven't seen him in a long time. I would love to, but he's one of the funniest dudes around, man. Every time I'm with him, my belly is literally hurting. My face is hurting from laughing so much.
That's awesome. We got to get the band back together one of these
Yeah.
days. But Kenny, you're now commentating for the PFL. They got the Challenger Series coming up. What
Yes.
makes you so much excited for this series coming up and something new that they're doing?
Yeah, listen, I think as a guy who started out in mixed martial arts where, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity when I was coming up. It was basically like if you wanted to make it as a fighter, the UFC was your only option. And now you have more options. And with the PFL, if I'm looking at it from the standpoint of high level experience, I'm looking at the standpoint of like economically, what's the best decision for me and my family, for example. I would want to take the route of the PFL, to be honest. I mean, like you have this opportunity to get into the MMA game, to be a part of an action-packed year of fights. A lot of fighters can't guarantee how many fights they're going to get in a year. The PFL essentially does. So long as you're not injured yourself, you're good to go. So mapping out that year, I think, is huge for a lot of guys. And then furthermore, your ability to make $1 million in 1 year, that you could be fighting in the UFC or other organizations for several years and never make $1 million in 7-10 years, so you could do that in 1 year if everything goes perfectly for you. So I think the opportunity that the PFL presents is tremendous. Now, the Challenger Series itself, what does it provide? It provides that opportunity for fighters to be a part of the PFL season. And I think it's a great way to establish and find talent, So I think we're always looking for, I guess, situations where you can find and develop talent. It can be challenging going to all the regional and local, MMA fights all over the country and finding that talent where, the PFL is having them come to them. So they're finding those guys, those big names, and then kind of testing the waters with them and seeing how they perform under the bright lights. So that's going to be on Fubo TV. So they're looking for, their new potential competitors during the regular season. And this Challenger Series is there to identify them, either for this year or for following years. So pretty exciting, and I think that's where things are headed. It's like, where are the guys that are going to, be future stars? Where are the guys, going to come from? And I think they've signed some really top tier talent. And I think things are going to get interesting. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how it unfolds and who are the stars that come out of this first go at the Challenger Series.
Yeah, the PFL has done such a great job in implementing a new way of fighters to go make a good amount of money because there's a lot of fighters who complain about, oh, I can't make this amount of money in the UFC, Bellator. You can go to PFL and make $1 million in
Yeah, man.
1 year, which is amazing. Do
for
you
sure.
feel that more companies should probably implement maybe this tournament style or season style?
I think with the PFL, they've established a different identity from everybody else. It's like, can you really replicate what the UFC's doing? Probably not. They've been in the game for so long. Of course, a great organization. Um, but the PFL is basically trying to create their own little niche, their own little thing. And I think I don't know. Same way, I think if the PFL tried to do what the UFC was doing, I don't know if they would be as successful. And if the UFC tried to do what the PFL was doing, I don't know if they would be as successful. So I think it's smart that the PFL is really trying to carve out their own path and create their own identity on how they see MMA and what the best fit is for them and their fighters. So yeah, I mean, as far as the money, I mean, I don't know if there's anyone out there really that's on that level as far as all the different weight classes and all the different divisions and all that stuff. So I think the PFL is really positioning themselves as a leader when it comes to money and a tournament style format, this regular season and tournament style format.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see stories like Rosh Manfield, Bruno Capoloza, a lot of guys that people didn't
Crazy.
know who they were, and now they're millionaires and
Yep.
they have bigger names and more to their names now after winning those tournaments. But Kenny, the biggest story I guess out of this PFL season is Kayla Harrison. What
Mhm.
is Kayla Harrison going to do? If you're
Yep.
in Kayla Harrison's position, are you thinking, I have kids now, and you have kids now, obviously.
Yep.
Do you think about I can win another $1 million and kind of secure the future for my children, or are you thinking legacy? I want to win that UFC title. I want to fight Amanda Nunes, or I want to fight Chris Cyborg in Bellator to help to add on to my legacy. What would you do in that position?
That's a great question, man. I think Kayla is still young. I still think that she's trying to weigh the options. Well, from my understanding, she already made her decision. And I think, for her getting new challengers in the PFL is probably going to be her best option. Why? If so first of all, she'd have to cut down to 145 pounds in the UFC. Um, I only know of like one or two other females in the UFC, really. Maybe there's one or two more that could do it, but that she could fight against. And I know that, like you mentioned, you brought up the economics of it. She has kids now. She wants to stay busy. She wants to be able to make money. I don't think she's going to make more money fighting outside the PFL, to be honest. I think that she is tailor made for this regular season and tournament style format. She is as tough as they come. She comes from that judo background where, they do several matches in one day, and the preparation towards that, the mental preparation for that she's experienced in the Olympics. Um, I think she's tailor made for the PFL, to be honest. So, maybe things change later on down the line. I don't know, but I think she's best suited for the PFL, and I think that's where we're going to end up seeing her.
Yeah, and staying on the lines of fighter pay and money, recently we had Francis Ngannou deal with this UFC issue with Dana White and the Hunter Campbell and all that.
Mm.
I had Neil Magny on the show the other day, and I said, "Is Francis Ngannou the guy that can help with fighter with fighters' contracts and getting more money and being actual independent contractors?" And Neil
Right.
Magny said, "No, he feels that Francis should, back his peers, and if he backs his peers, they'll help him, and he'll have more people to back him up." In these kind of situations, do you feel Neil Magny for saying that, or are you more on the Francis side of just he has to protect himself?
It's tough, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's kind of um, in a way the advantage that's the advantage that organizations like the UFC has, right? It's like, well, everyone's kind of an independent contractor. They're all fighting for what they feel their worth is. And let's be honest, right? I mean, like the value of a Francis Ngannou versus a guy making his UFC debut is totally different. So aligning those things and aligning those values it's going to be really different. The UFC heavyweight champion of the world is probably going to make a lot more money than say even the UFC, I don't know, bantamweight champion, right? Both champions of the UFC, but it comes down to, you know, pay-per-view buys, how the public views those champions, how exciting they are, all that. I mean, there's so many different metrics, I would imagine, to measure that stuff. And I think that it's hard to get everyone on board. It doesn't mean I think that they shouldn't all be on board. I think that there would be great power in aligning everyone together and having certain standards. I've always talked about, all right, let's say there's standards for, let's say, someone who has had 0 to 5 fights. Like all those guys should get paid within a certain level. And then you get the other guys that may be in that 6 to 10 fight range, or a 10 to 20 fight range, or the guys that are champions or former champions, or guys that are ranked in the top 5 should make a certain amount. I think that kind of makes sense for fighters. And again, it would come down to unionizing and making some kind of collective organization. That can be challenging when you have that many different individuals and different managers and different people who run that. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's tricky waters, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and Dana White didn't put that title around Francis's waist. If you had won that championship and that same thing happened to you, would that even be that big of an issue for you, or you just be worried about I am the champion right now. Who cares if Dana White puts the championship around my waist?
Yeah, listen, I think it doesn't matter. For every fighter, for me, anyways. As I got a few fights under my belt, when I saw that winning a world championship was possible, that's all I cared about. I don't care who's putting it around my waist. Unfortunately for Dana, I think it kind of looks bad on him in a lot of ways. For Francis, he's on top of the world. He encountered an insane amount of adversity leading into that fight with that knee injury and contract dispute. He finds out back in the locker room, apparently, that, he was being sued or something like. So it's like, that's crazy. That's a lot to deal with, man, heading into one of the biggest fights of your life. And by the way, going against your former coach and former training partner, it's like, geez. But if you know Francis's story, you're probably not surprised by how tough this dude is mentally, physically, spiritually. The dude's an absolute savage. So he stayed calm, stayed composed, and went out there and did what he had to do. And then we can even talk about the fact that he was down 2 rounds and still had the focus to reel it in and get back and do what he needed to do to win that fight. So I'm just amazed by it. It wasn't the prettiest of performances, but guess what? It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes, injuries happen. Bad performances happen. You get off to a bad start, whatever it is. Combat isn't always pretty, but what it comes down to is getting the win when you need it. And that's exactly what he did. And I was impressed as hell, man.
Yeah, so much stacked against him there. And I said before that fight, he was going to win, but it wouldn't be pretty, especially against a guy like Gon, who can
God is
do,
so good, dude.
he's so good. He can do so
Yeah.
many things in different areas there. And I think Francis noticed that. And his coach, Eric Nixick, who doesn't get enough credit for the amount of guys he has at that gym
Yeah.
and balancing that, did such a great job. But Kenny, on Monday, you were on Ariel Helwani's show before mine, which I was so mad. Like, man, I wouldn't have been on my show first,
He
but he got
stole
to it.
it.
He stole it. He stole it. But you said on there, you and the UFC had, that issue with the Ultimate Fighter, and
Yeah.
they ended up releasing you. If in this day, do you still have a relationship with people back there in the UFC? And let's say the PFL year ends and the UFC throws a contract at you, would you consider going back?
I definitely still, have friends at the UFC organization, having been there, since, I started on the Ultimate Fighter in 2004, was officially a part of the UFC in 2005. My last fight was in 2011. I did commentary for them all the way up until like 2017 or something like that. So I was with them for a very long time. So of course I have a lot of good friends there and stuff like that. Um, who knows? I don't know. I don't want to close the door on anything. All I know is I also am happy where I'm at right now. I'm really happy to be a part of the PFL. I love new challenges. I love the way that I've been treated, and just kind of the family atmosphere at the PFL has been phenomenal. And I got to deal with Sean O'Connell, that guy. But other than that, he bothers me all the time and picks on me. But no, it's been awesome, man. Working with Sean and Randy and Lillian and all the people over there have been great. And I think that they are truly in it for the long term. They see a vision for the sport. They want to see the fighters do well, and they want to put out the best product that they absolutely can. So, I'm just kind of staying present, and I'm happy where I'm at. And as far as the future, what that would look like, I don't know. I'm just happy to be a part of the PFL right now.
And you have your podcast with Jon Anik, which is, I feel, one of the most underrated podcasts on YouTube right now.
Thank you,
Seriously, and
brother.
I'm not saying this is to kiss butt or anything like that.
Thank
Literally, it's so good because so much information goes in there from your side of being, that technical side, and Jon Anik being there in those events or whichever events that it is. It's a
thank
great
you.
combination. What is your favorite part about that podcast, and what is your favorite part about Jon Anik? Just honestly, just working with him as a friend.
Yeah. I've been learning from John, working alongside him since what, 2007, something like that, when we first started doing MMA live together. I may have that date wrong, but right around there. So he has been the ultimate professional from day one, not only extremely talented, but extremely hardworking. And I think when you get that combo, that is extremely rare. To see how he's developed his talents and how he has put himself above everybody as far as the MMA commentary game. I mean, he's extremely impressive. He has encyclopedic knowledge. He knows everything about the fighter, and he wants to know everything about the fighter. He's a guy who doesn't want to go out there and have to stumble on his words. Not that John has ever had that issue. The guy can talk,
It's crazy.
but that is a gift. But he really he works his ass off. Like anytime I would work with him, he was locked in his room, like legit. He'd go out to eat, and that was it. Other than that, he was in his room studying, researching, doing all that stuff, and he continues to do that to this day. I think that's what sets him apart. So when he originally came to me about the podcast, I was like, man, I don't know. We have a lot of things going on. Are we going to be able to do this? Because we wanted to do it every week. And once we established and did it and committed to it, it's been awesome, man. I don't always have the opportunity to talk to John about fights and to discuss things and, to have his inside information on stuff. So literally our time to do that is catch up and see each other and rap is like the podcast. So it's almost like it's our weekly way of getting together and having fun, man. So John's a trip, dude. And it's the other cool thing about the podcast is that people get a chance to see how damn funny Jon Anik is. Like
Yes.
you see him as this, he's always just like on it, and talking about fights and serious, but seeing him outside, outside on the podcast is more of what real Jon Anik is all about, I guess.
Awesome. And shout out to Cody Merrow, of course,
Yes,
producing the back end of
Cody,
that.
he's the man.
And remember the show as well on there. I got to co-host one day when Bilal wasn't there.
Oh,
It's such
nice.
such such amazing people on that network, and I hope to see more things happen within that network.
Thank you, man.
But Kenny used to have that school in California. Do you still have that BJJ school in
I do
California?
not. I do not.
Okay.
No longer affiliated with that school. I still
Hmm.
have my gym in Brookline, Massachusetts, Florian
Okay.
Martial Arts Center with my brother Keith. And other than that, that's all I have. I have a new online school, if you could say that.
Yeah.
I have a online instructional that I just released covering grappling that I hope people who are into jiu-jitsu or grappling or mixed martial arts can check out. I feel it really helps them understand jiu-jitsu and grappling. I think gives them more freedom to be more intuitive, more creative, all that stuff at kennyflorianmartialarts.com. So I love teaching. I love being a part of learning myself and, still on that path, which is, the most exciting thing that I do. I'm so lucky that I get to talk about martial arts, teach martial arts, and learn martial arts.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that you've never been like maybe a head coach somewhere or cornering a couple fighters. Is there any reason you never took that route?
Um, I think that I enjoy that. I enjoy being a part of the process. I don't necessarily need to be, um, you know, uh, I don't know. I think the role of being out there as a coach can be tough. I think that I don't love speaking for other fighters. I don't like taking credit for other fighters necessarily either. Like I think that um, a fighter always makes the coach, not the other way around. I think in a lot of ways, and certainly coaches have great value and they're very helpful, but the fighter at the end of the day needs to put in the work. And I think, and to that point, I guess it can be difficult working with fighters as well, because you have a certain vision of what you feel they need to do or execute on. And sometimes fighters see it differently, and that's okay too. So finding that balance of giving the fighter their creativity and allowing for their process and meshing that with yours can be challenging, I think. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would be against that necessarily. If I would have been against that necessarily, I guess it's just not my path. I love teaching, but I don't know. It just kind of was never something that I guess I pushed for enough as a coach. I love helping fighters out. I think I have some information to give them and help them with, but yeah, it just kind of never materialized, I guess.
Yeah, and unfortunately, your career ended a little early with some injury issues, and I remember that happening. Do you feel that more fighters should take that into mind, into your health? Because there's some guys who will still go in there, maybe have a little bit of, I don't know. You can't, obviously you can't tell CTE early in your career. That's something that
No.
happens so when after you passed away. But there's guys who are still fighting bare knuckles, still fighting in some places maybe they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You think more fighters should be like maybe like a Habib and just be like, you know what, my body can't take this anymore. I'm gonna just end it at this age, even though it could be 30, 31. You think more fighters should go in that direction?
Yeah, I listen, I think it's an excellent point. I
Yeah,
think that answer is probably different for everybody.
yeah,
But what I think should be coached more, or what should be at the forefront of most fighters' approach, and it isn't, is the idea of defense. And it's such a simple
yeah,
thing, but I think a lot of people, they're so brave and they're so tough that they think only about killing that person in front of them. That's fine, but they must understand that they can be killed as well. If not immediately, over time. That we all have a certain amount of energy. We only have a certain amount of capabilities, right, with our body, our
yeah.
brains, et cetera, et cetera, and that should be preserved. If they should have a defense first approach, I think. Habib was so good at that. I saw some statistic about me, I guess, where I guess my opponents only scored like 24% accuracy on their striking or something like that. So I was happy to see that. Not that I'm like patting myself on the back, but I'm glad that was. I'm never really that big into stats, but I'm glad that I saw that, because that was my approach. I tried to take as little damage as possible, but I also wanted to balance that with aggression and moving forward and trying to finish my opponents. So it wasn't always a difficult balancing act, right? I had my share of losses, all that stuff, but I'm proud that I've never been knocked out in a fight. I've never been knocked out in training. Um, and I tried to preserve my big head the best that I could. So yeah, I think other fighters need to be aware of that, because we may not see effects today, but we may very well see those effects take hold of that person later on, with, and CTE can come at any point. That's the thing,
Mhm,
and everyone's built differently. One shot could be the difference,
mhm.
30 shots may be the difference from someone else. 1,000 shots may be the difference for someone else. And what people don't understand is it's not just the fight itself that's difficult. It's all the shots and training that you're taking, all the sparring, all the wear and tear that happens before you even get in there. So there's no doubt mixed martial arts is one of the toughest sports in the world, man. It probably the toughest.
Yeah. And Kenny, you fought Jose Aldo for the featherweight championship. How cool is it to see this man right here still be relevant in a different weight class? And when I think about it now, too, the age difference between you guys, that's nuts. Like how how
I
is
know.
that even possible? Because I thought you guys were literally maybe a year or two apart, but
It's
Jose
crazy.
Aldo apparently has been 33 years old for the past 10 years.
Dude, it's crazy. I'm glad you brought that up. I think there's many great fighters. There's many champions. There's few true mixed martial arts masters. And I've said this before, but Jose Aldo is a mixed martial arts master. He is just a brilliant fighter. As far as, you know, try identifying a weakness in that guy's game. There really isn't any. And the fact that he's been able to be this consistent for this long as a fighter is a testament to those skills and to that heart that he possesses. It's amazing to witness. I'm so happy for the guy, especially considering he was never the guy that talked shit to get where he wanted to be. He was never that flashy dude. He was the guy that worked hard, stayed disciplined, stayed consistent, and went out there and performed when he needed to. And he's still doing it to this day. He's doing it at 135 pounds. He still may win a belt at 135 pounds, by the way. I'm really happy to see a good guy like Jose Aldo do as well. In the UFC, and he's a stud, and an absolute Hall of Famer for sure.
Will you be tuning in to watch Rashad fight this weekend in Eagle FC?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Oh my god, yes. I hope Rashad does okay, man. I hope he stays healthy, number one, and I
Yeah.
hope he kicks ass, man. Rashad is one of my favorite people in the world, one of the nicest dudes, awesome competitor, former champion in the UFC, and I hope he does well.
Man, he looks small. He looks small these days. I saw him down
Yeah,
here
he's looking
in
lean, man.
Hollywood. I'm like, are you going to welterweight, Rashad? You're looking like a welterweight right now.
He looks better than ever. He looks younger. Like, he looks great. Yeah.
Man, whatever's working out for him is really good.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Kenny, last two questions here, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you for coming on big time.
Of course.
You are a father now.
Mhm.
What is your favorite part about being a father, Kenny?
Dude, honestly, I think the best part is just witnessing how they view everything as new and beautiful. Like, little things that we forget that is so cool and so special. You get a chance to witness that in your kids. You get a chance to experience that in your kids. And there is nothing better than hearing I love you from your kids. There is nothing better than holding your kids, all that stuff. And to see them figure things out and learn, and the way in which they approach life with their creativity and zest for life is like the greatest gift ever.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And looking back on your career now, what do you feel was the most important part of your mixed martial arts journey? Not just the UFC, your mixed
Mm.
martial arts journey.
I guess my favorite thing and the most important thing was learning. And
Yeah.
what do I mean by that? Everything. Learning about technique, learning about tactics and strategy, learning about logistics, learning about organizing, learning about yourself, learning about your opponent, learning about the game, learning about the evolution, where things are headed, how I need to, get ahead of things. And it's it's been one of those things where you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of, that those are lessons that I will have with me for the rest of my life. And I and I think the lesson of beautiful failures, these are all lessons as well. There is no straight line to the top. It doesn't just go vertical. It's this roller coaster ride of volatility and confusion and chaos at times, and highs and lows. But once you start figuring it out, it's a steady climb up, more and more and more, so long as you stay present and humble and keep learning and keep working hard. And I try my best to do that in all aspects of my life. And also try not to get so hard on myself
Yeah.
if I do make a mistake. So learning all those things, man, and just enjoying the ride.
That's awesome, Kenny. And it's been an honor to watch your career, of course, and to watch your commentating career, and the more things that you get to do going forward, and watching you work with the PFL, and honestly seeing how happy you are working within that family of people from Sean O'Connell, who's made such a transition from a fighter to such an amazing coach. He's so
Yes,
good.
I hate to admit it. He's done great, I guess.
He's good. He's
Whatever.
good. He's good. I was going to ask you about some impressions, but we're going to keep that for another time to talk to you,
Yeah.
because there's some new fighters, and I know you got it in that mind to do those impressions. But Kenny, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you on BattleBox. We'll see you in the PFL. Appreciate it. We always talk via DM, as we always do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, Kenny.
Thank you, man, and best of luck with the podcast. Keep killing it.
Absolutely. Thank you, boss.